Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hey, back with another one, back with another one, back with another one, back with another one. All right, capitalism part two. Now we're gonna get this underway. We're gonna talk about it. Yes, yes, yes. A little politics, like I told y'all. Yeah, we gotta get this reading done. Gotta get this reading done. Salute, 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 Mike. Salute, salute. Like I said, man, I understand that we're gonna get back into it. Last week we talked about it, and we're just gonna keep it pretty short and simple. And okay, let me put this in a playlist. What's the playlist? Political world system. Oh, it's already set. Okay, great, great. I said it. Okay, the last time we said it. Okay, the last time we wait, and like I said, we was talking about capitalism because in part one we went to the philosophy basics. I don't have to give y'all the link already. Y'all should read part one and watch that last stream I did. So capitalism is the economic system, like we talked about, and a social system. Also is a mode of production, which is the means of production are predominantly privately owned and operated for profit, and distribution and exchange is mainly market and economy. It is usually considered to involve the right of individuals and corporations to trade using money and goods, services, labor, and land. Some from a capitalism has been dominant in the Western world since the end of feudalism in the Middle Ages, has provided the main and although not exclusive a means of industrialization throughout much of the world. It's the rise to prominence and sprang out of the mercantilism of the 16th to 18th centuries, which I mentioned in part one, followed the rise of liberalism and laissez faire economics in Western society. But a capitalist mode of the production, however, may exist within societies with differing state systems, e.g., liberal democracy, fascism, and different social structures. That's the introduction on that part, and I'm reading the slide with the philosophy basics, and it says Marxists, in terms, the owners of the capital are dominant capitalist class, or the bourgeois and the working class are the proletariat who do not own the capital must live by selling their labor in exchange for wage. Thus, according to Karl Marx's capitalism is based on the exploitation of workers by the owners of capital and under his theory of historical materialism, and represents just one of the stages in the evolution of a society which would be overthrown as the workers gain class consciousness and takes control over the state. And that's it. And then we talked about the history of capitalism, of course, John Stuart Mill and Adam Smith, John Locke, and all that other stuff, right? The utilitarian philosopher and the liberals talking about the history and all that stuff. Yeah, this all goes back to the days of the 16th century, after the Renaissance period and all that stuff. And we talked about the criticisms and things like that. That's just one of many we brought up. So we're gonna get to the part where the future, the American capitalism, and we're gonna go to the increase in superstar part. That part we left off and we didn't read as much. That's the part that we're gonna talk about in this discussion because capitalism is a big deal. It's one of the very few systems I don't talk about on this channel as much. It's because number one, people have different perspectives of looking at it. Yes, it deals with economics on part of it, and part of it goes together. It's like a philosophy that is driven a lot, and mainly you just have guys that talk about it in certain spaces. They spew it a lot, but when you talk about it in its initial culture, you'll have things that people talk about capitalism every day. So when you deal with capitalism, you understand that it is means of production. It has its ways of what you're doing. And I just noticed that in so many words. And it's just what it is. Some people look at it in various angles. And like we said, and then we'll get into the read in just a moment. So let me get set up over here. And that's just how it is in so many words. And when we talk about philosophy, it gets in this moment. So I'm gonna get the screenshot ready. I mean, not screenshot, but a screen share. I mean, we're gonna share this information with you, and we're gonna put this down, and we're gonna put this in its ranks. So I'm gonna say is capitalism. I say is capitalism. I'll say sustainable. We'll get that in a minute. We're gonna get that link in a minute. We're gonna read this part. So we're gonna get to this part real quick. So we're gonna read this part. I'm gonna read it for y'all. I know y'all can't see that because I'm on the Chrome. So we're gonna get this. So we're gonna get to this part like where we left off, and we're gonna read it. I'm gonna say, and it says, increasing superstar effects. Capitalism effectiveness is directing capital formation towards the most promising investments, has implications for the market structures and concentration of economic power. Gains over the past 20 years have been concentrated in a small subset of sectors, including finance and real estate and technology and pharmaceuticals and some business services. This concentration has driven a strong wealth effects through higher returns to the holders of physical and intangible assets and capital. Superstar sectors of the past 20 years are less capital and labor intensive than those are prior decades, according to our research. And there have been more geographically concentrated, further driving inequality in income and wealth. In the United States, just 6% of countries account for two-thirds of GDP output. Concentration of talent, intellectual property, and other intangible assets reinforce these geographically concentrated gains to the superstar cities from New York to Los Angeles to Atlanta, which have 40% high GDP per capita than per cities, but also considerably higher levels of inequality. This is factual. I'm going to stop right there in this part. It mentioned New York to LA to Atlanta. This is factual. A lot of people don't realize a lot of people go to these areas to find their jobs in capitalism. Atlanta has a capitalistic system. And we're going to talk about this for specifically like that. I lived there for like decades, and then I'm in another city right now. I'm not in the ATL like I used to be. I left that shit in 2019 and moved to another county over in another city over. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's very factual what it's saying about the GDP and all that other stuff and concentrated gains and all that stuff. You know, people come move left and right. And we talked about this on the channel and these subjects on every Wednesday on the political world systems. We talked about this last year in depth, like a couple of months back, and then referencing these cities. And even in the summer, I talked about it. I talked about this a lot. And so the election with Abrams and Kemp is in full effect. This is going to be a good midterm election. We're going to see the outcome of it. And I will participate in that election as well. And this stuff is very vital. You know, if you live in the GA, get out there and vote. Vote for your interests and see what you're going to do and how you're going to move around in the political spectrum in the GA. If y'all in the GA, you should let me know that y'all should be moving around. Well, let's continue this next point because this is going to get interesting. Superstar effects have been the most apparent with the growth of superstar firms globally among firms with more than $1 billion in revenue. The top 10% of companies capture 80% of all economic profit. Many of the superstar firms are categorized by large investments in intangibles, high skilled workforce, business models enabled by digital capabilities, and often a high proportion of international sales. They frequently access inputs globally and offer products and services that are relevant to multiple markets. To be clear, it is tough to stay superstar. Nearly half of them fall out of the superstar ranks every business cycle, and of those that fall, 40% drop to the bottom docile. If should have also be noted that the bottom 10% of the firm's economic performance destroy nearly as much economic value as they created by the top 10%. Don't turn over as frequently as those at the top, which some would argue should happen in well-functioning capitalist model. C-19 pandemic has further amplified these superstar effects. Top performing firms are better positioned to weather the economic crisis with greater access to liquidity and more diversified markets. Moreover, many superstar firms have strong digital capabilities, then have helped then thrive during the pandemic. Some lead into the innovation services such as healthcare and the life science that are much needed as economics navigate through C-19. No wonder a basket of large profitable firms that outperformed the market over the past 10 months while the rest of the economy has struggled. So we read the part with the increase in superstar effects, and let's read the next part: declining investment in public goods and the shrinking role of institutions. In investments in public goods, from education, training, skills to the human capital development to the foundation R&D and infrastructure, has declined relative both to what is needed to enable the individuals to have equality of opportunity, participate fully in the economy, and to do what it is required to productivity growth and competitiveness. Federal spending or on education, infrastructure, and scientific research fell from approximately 2.5% of GDP in 1980 to less than 1.5% of GDP today, at a time when technology often forces to drive a greater and need for workforce retraining. But the share of workers receiving employer-sponsored training fell, while public funding for workers training and other labor market interventions has also declined. Private sector investments in public infrastructures, including in the form of public and private partnerships, have also fallen over the past 35 years and declined in all an even faster rate following the 2008 recession. And investment in public goods, including infrastructure, health, and workforce skills, critical factors which contribute to the competitiveness and productivity of an product of an economy. C-19 pandemic has many ways highlighted existing gaps in the nation's public goods as a result of declining public and private investment from healthcare systems and an employment safety nets to access the essential digital infrastructure, investments in basic scientific research. Many of these shortfalls in public goods have had desperate effects on demographic of groups and localities in the United States economy, and often as function of the economic dynamism and actively in different places. But the addition of charges of individual outcomes have been propelled in a part of the shrinking role of the institutions of both public and private, which are cohesions individuals to a lesser degree from the effects of the forces at work in the economy. For example, employment protections are now lower. Higher share of healthcare and education costs is private, and guaranteed pension levels have dropped. This is a pattern of great individualization of the social contract, like we talked about contractitarianism. I will make a part 2 next week and talk about that further, about the social contract, prevail in the majority of the advanced economies we examine, despite differing marketing systems and levels of government spending. There we go. See, you mentioned social contract, contractitarianism. We will talk about that extensively in part 2, and I'll reference back what I said in part 1 if y'all miss. I'll play that and we'll get a feel of what's going on. So yeah, that's the whole purpose of next Wednesday. I will probably do that stream Wednesday. Yeah, so we're going to talk about climate change, other global externalities. Let's see what's going on in here. And what's going on, D Scott? What's going on, man? Salute. Yeah, we're gonna get into it, because a lot of people just because when you talk about politics, people just ain't gonna be interested in it. But that's the whole purpose. So we're gonna get into it, and that's just the thing. That's just the thing, because we're gonna keep focused on what's what. So when you get into the political sphere of it, we understand that most people just, that's just how it is. And that's just how you know that economics is very important. But when you talk about capitalism in its prior form, they used to the good stuff. So that's what you deal with. And I'm just like, yeah. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because we're gonna talk about this extensively. So we know what it is. And you know, and a lot of people just gonna look at it for what it is. But we're gonna get into the capitalism part because I know this is gonna be a short night. I know people ain't gonna come through right away. Because right I get into the end, you know, I may drop the link tonight if y'all want to discuss about capitalism. We can have this discussion and I want to get this underway. I'm not like most people, you know, this ain't no echo chamber. If you want to challenge what I said and information, be free to do because I don't know how I'm gonna finish this article. I'm not gonna go in. This is part two. I just want any thoughts. Um, if people want to come through, that's fine. Links are open. Links are open. So I am not no echo chamber. I won't tell you that right now. But I will have structure on my shit. I'll tell you that right now. I ain't with the bullshit this year. So we're gonna get with it. Climate change and other global externalities. The C-19 pandemic has demonstrated the need for dedication effort by the public and private sectors to respond to both humanitarian and economic crisis. For example, through the coordinated investments in the manufacturing of the personal protective equipment, PPE, or support for the most vulnerable workers and small business affected by lockdowns. But the crisis does provide a glimpse into the challenge that the liberal market systems like America's can face in addressing large scale coordinated interventions in a response to external shocks. Climate change also poses a challenge to capitalism through potentially the largest disruption to the market economy. Addressing it will likewise require a coordinate collective actions by firms, governments, and individuals, not just within, but also between economies and likely all levels, beyond what the market itself will drive in the time required to address it. But the American capitalism has so far been unsuccessful in putting a price on carbon and regulating it through a market-based intervention such as cap and trade program. The past 5 years have been the warmest on record. Regions worldwide has been increased occurrence of flooding, extreme weather, and wildfires. Over the coming years, we have likely see a global social economic impacts that affect the human beings and the physical and natural capital, as well as economic systems. These impacts will be nonlinear as a system. Thresholds are breached and have knocked on effects. Moreover, the impacts on society are likely to be regressive, affecting the most economically vulnerable segments of society. So we talked about climate change and other global externalities. So we're going to get to the competition, cooperation with different economic systems. So we'll read this parentheses right here, what it means, and like we're going to read right here. The trends over the past 50 years have largely played out in a global economy centered on Western democracies, with the United States at the forefront, but emerging economies once viewed primarily as sources of affordable labor or resources are emerging as large competitive economies in their own right and proving more dynamic in some respects. Then the United States, this is key to an increasingly multipolar global economy. This challenge is to be exemplified by this rapid growth and global scale of China. China has evolved to become a global economic power. It became the world's largest economy in purchasing power, party terms, in 2014, and its nominal GDP has reached two-thirds of the United States and is already leading manufacturer in the world, producing 20% of the global manufacturing output. Moreover, China has itself become a large market for consumption, with a population of 1.4 billion people and increasingly prosperity given the rise to the growth in the domestic consumption that now contributes more to China economic growth. For the exports, by 2030, the Chinese working age population will account for 12 cents of every dollar of urban consumption worldwide. But the large domestic market is also attracting companies from around the world, including the United States. So we read this parentheses right here on the side over here. The Fortune Global 500 list of the world's largest public companies from the first time in 2020, including more than companies based mainland China and Hong Kong, 124 then in the United States, 121. There you go. What we just read on the side over here is connection what I'm just reading about. Just like it says, and then it says 12 cents of every dollar of urban consumption worldwide. The largest domestic market is also attracting companies from around the world, including the United States. See, we just read that. China's economy is intertwined with that of the United States in other ways, and China today owns about 4% of the U.S. national debt. Because of its large trade surplus, needs to maintain foreign exchange reserves, its system of state capitalism has started to produce companies that are competitive on the global stage and look to opportunities worldwide. The Fortune Global 500 list, we just read that on the side of here, of the world's largest public companies in the first time in 2020, including the more companies based on mainland China, Hong Kong. When we just read that, 124 to 121. Yeah, we just read that on the side up here, and they also put it right here too, just like it says. We're gonna skip that, and we're gonna say through the extensive industrial policies, China is making large investments in R&D and innovations, and is starting to close the gap in its aim to become the technology superpower in areas including the advancement of communications and 5G, artificial intelligence, biotech, and among others. Historically, the United States had led the world in technology research, development, and commercialization since World War II, and still does. However, U.S. federal R&D funding as a share of GDP peaked at over 2% in the 1970s, has declined since the falling to 0.7% in 2018. American companies continue to expand private sector investments in R&D, but their ability to compete in areas of innovation as well as infrastructure investments and requirements long-term investment decisions while meeting short-term market expectations is already been tested. So the challenges facing the American model of capitalism is the 21st century in a multipolar global economy go beyond the United States. They will evolve. They will involve other large economies and economic regions in their companies in terms of where they have compete and partnered and areas of trade, technology, and economic alliances, as well as the nature of the multilateral institutions to facilitate, govern and obliterate, and regulate how to global economy functions. But the evolving global economy poses new and complicated choices for the evolution of the American model and for other large economies and their corporations. So, yeah, American capitalism has evolved in time and time again, and we appear to be poised for another such shift. The question is, how big a change? That's a hell of a great question. The next era of American capitalism, we're going to stop right here and see who's up in here. Yeah, try to see who's up in here. What's going on, Shar? Greetings, 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 greetings. Fortune 500 slave masters, the real government. Okay. So it is what it is. and you just got to deal with it in so many factors. So we're going to talk about this. This is a good one, and this is by McKinsey.com, and it features the future of America capitalism. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the 21st century part right here. So, the next era, let's get to it. So, I'm going to read this part. The 21st century provides remarkable opportunities for business and economic growth. Domestically, internationally, our own research, that of others, highlight many different opportunities for innovation and growth. In the coming decades, the strengths of American capitalism could position in the United States to take advantage of these opportunities. But for its individuals, firms, and overall economy to fully participate and benefit from these opportunities, America's model of capitalism may need to evolve if it's remain to unmatch mechanisms for delivering prosperity for all that is has been. However, in any such evolution, it's important to retain strengths of a current model, especially those that will be critical to capturing the opportunities in the decades ahead, and focus on addressing the weakness such as the ones we have highlighted in this article. In the previous areas, new ideas emerge and institutional actors intact a number of market based mechanisms that attempt to address the issue that capitalism faced. Modern forms of intervention may be needed, given to the growing pervasive role of technology. But the emergence of the new business models, the growing importance of intangible assets, and changing ways which individuals participate in the economy as workers, consumers, savers. But the magnitude of the economic shock, hold on, let's get it right here. Let me get this right here. The economic shot brought about the C-19 pandemic creates an opportunity to reconsider how will the current model works, the extent to which it fit for the challenges and opportunities of the present and future. These include how ensure capitalism is inclusive, how to evolve market mechanisms, where to apply them, the role of government and industrial policies, and the role of corporations in the 21st century in addressing societal challenges, whether to what extent America's model of capitalism we need to adjust to growing challenges and new economic and technological possibilities remains to be determined. However, answers to some key questions may help provide direction. Number one, where and how can the strength of American capitalism be reinforced and broadened to fully benefit to the growth and the prosperity of all the United States and others beyond it, to fully capture the promise and evolving opportunities and possibilities of the 21st century? Number two, what types of the market based on non-market based intervention interventions and can shift capitalism to provide opportunities and improve outcomes to all its participants, which preserving the innovation and competition that enable growth and greater prosperity. What aspects of market design, redesign, are in need in order to create well functioning and inclusive markets fit for a 21st century economy and its participants? As technology growing, the importance of capital, intangibles. That's number three. As in technology growing, the importance of the capital, intangibles, and globalization are all affect the labor markets. Now, how can capitalism evolve to ensure that the people, that a majority of whom participate in the economy via their labor, prosper through access to quality jobs, income, and dignity? As C-19 has further highlighted the vulnerabilities for many individuals, what safety nets and transition supports are required going forward? How can these best be provided? And here's number four. How can capitalism ensure that all people, places in the United States have the opportunity to participate fully in the economy, especially those mostly adversely affected to the date at risk being left behind in the future? What investments are needed, and how should be these made? Okay, here's number five. How should Concentration of the economic returns and the emergence of superstar firms, sectors, cities to be addressed. Cities be addressed. I mean, excuse me, cities be addressed. How can these benefits of these superstars, for example, the ability to make large and more uncertain long term investments and breakthrough innovation and the benefits to the consumers from scale network effects, be ha- harnessed from a wider benefit, while the downsides, including impacts on innovation, competition, consumers, and regional economies, are mitigated. Okay, here's number six. To what extent is the capitalism equipped to address a challenge like climate change with the required speed scale, requires speed and scale? Okay, where can market-based interventions be applied? What can also what role can governments and other institutions play to create incentives enable to coordination in order to address climate change? That's number six. Number seven, what actions will ensure the American capitalism remains competitive and resilient in the global economy? What can be learned from the other systems of capitalism, and what aspects is that of making the American system unique should be leveraged for the continued growth and prosperity? What, if any, of these roles industrial policy? That's a question they ask. Okay. So here's number eight. How can capitalism ensure sufficient investment in public goods such as education, other human capital investments, in public infrastructure, including health infrastructures or fundamental R&D? How can these investments be made equitably across various social, economic, and I mean, demographic groups and parts of the country? How should these investments be financed? That's a great question. These are the further questions to be answered, some which we intend to contribute to through our research at the McKinsey's Global Institute over the coming months. How the American model of capitalism works is not set in stone, can evolve as it always has, to meet the new opportunities and challenges business leaders, policymakers, social institutions, individuals will all play a role in shaping an American model of capitalism in the 21st century. How the American model of capitalism works is not set in stone. We can evolve as it always has and sets to meet the new opportunities and challenges. See, this is kind of like the future, what you see the Americans. This is a family. This guy's, yeah, I believe he's what you'll say a so-called African American, but I don't know if that's his kids. I believe that's his kids. Yeah, this is the future, y'all. This is the future of America. This is what they're promoting. Shouts out to the McKinsey Network. So I'm gonna leave this right here. That's what I read. Um, Most people got this link before. If you knew, I'm gonna drop it in the chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep it real with y'all. But anybody don't got this link, that's what I've read. So, anyways, but I'm gonna shout everybody in the chat. Who else came through? Let's see who came through. Who came through? Oh, what's going on, Nadia? What's going on, Nadia? Salute, 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 salute. Who else come through? Who else come through? What's going on, Alonzo? What's going on, man? Salute. What's going on, Tampa? Yeah, this is one of the things that we're gonna get into. So we're gonna see what's suitable, and we're gonna get into it. Oh, damn, that's a lot of reading. Woo, damn, I ain't reading that shit. Crazy. Let's go to courts. Man, y'all crazy with this shit. Okay, let's stop sharing. Gonna drop this down. Gonna stay right here for a minute. So Yeah. Oh, I'm 34 minutes in. Okay. Good. Good. Excellent. Excellent. So we're gonna go here for a minute. Yeah, we're gonna go to courts for a minute. We're gonna build this up. And okay. Capitalism without natural capital isn't sustainable. Y'all see the picture right here. This is by quartz.com. And let's see right here. Let's see what it reads. Okay, by Michael J. Corin, published in September 24th, 2020. We're in 2022 now. Yeah, it's like that now. So this is still relevant. It's still 21st century. Capitalism has destruction woven into its DNA. The endless stream of new inventions and ideas supplying new jobs, new things for business to sell comes courtesy of creative destruction. In those cases, destruction begates in creation, yet some of the destruction is needless environmental devastation. Amazonian rainforest is burned for the cattle pasture, then abandoned. But the fertile soil, it was washed away by the industrial farming. Even something as inclusive as Google's search is powered by the fossil fuel plants far away, emitting greenhouse gases. After 2 centuries of this accumulated damage and overheating climate, capitalism and treachery is beginning to look like a bad ending to one of Hollywood's apocalypse movies. Here we go. Yeah, I remember. The answer comes down to growth. Relentless drive for consumption or consumerism is not the side effect of capitalism, rather, argues the World Economic Forum. It is embedded in the core tenets of the capitalism as the economic system. Without rising consumption, the production of cycle falters. Productivity gains in its capitalism are generally plowed back into stimulating consumptions, thus profits, but not necessarily improving welfare. Changing this will be difficult, perhaps impossible, as a popular sentiment goes, and it's easier to imagine in the end of the world that imagine in the end of capitalism. It's true, try it. Yeah, I like this article. I like this article. This article is excellent. It's excellent. So get the levels right here real quick. Yeah, let's see right here. Okay. Free markets, well regulated once at least, have proven the effective of lifting billions out of poverty. Gross domestic product, GDP, has quadrupled since 1970, but they have proven less effective protecting the world's capacity sustain itself and us, and the governments and sometimes step into to correct these market futures if the market doesn't value the benefits of the natural world or the externalities, as economists and call them. Minimum standards can be set with policies such as the Clean Air Act and Endangered Species Act. Yet the growth and imperative remains the overall treachery of the environmental degradation and can continue as greenhouse gas emissions demonstrate. So, to balance nature's books and our own, and we can account for natural capital, first proposed by E.F. Schemacher in the 1973 book Small It's Beautiful. Natural capital describes the soil, air, and water, animals and plants, and the ecosystem service and to make it that make human life possible. Like a trust fund, humans and wildlife draw on its benefits. It is a renewable if used wisely. But when a natural resource is over consumed and it can be vanished, it is value erased from an invisible ledger forever. And that poses a question: how much richer is the capitalist world if it buys growth at the expense of the poisonous air or lifeless oceans? Some might be acceptable, but the loss of the natural capital means we're actually far less well off than we imagine. Interesting, right? Interesting. Accounting for natural capital as a resource would be radical departure. After nearly centuries of treating the GDP is virtually equivalent to national wealth, in a classical economics and capital is nearly divided into two camps: physical capital, machines and factories, and human capital, skills, expertise, and knowledge. But the natural world is an input. We tabulated gains into the private economy, but fail to subtract to the loss of the resources or the goods that flow from them. Industrial capitalism does not fully conform to its own accounting principles, states Paul Hawken and Amori Lovins and Hunter Lovins in their 1990 book, Natural Capitalism Creating the Next Industrial Revolution. It liquidates the capital and calls it incomes and neglects to assign any value to the large stocks of the capital it employs, but the natural resources and living systems, as well as the social and cultural systems that are the base of human capital. A more sustainable capitalism, narrow approach to accounting began to change in the 1980s research by ecological economist Daly, Herman Daly, and the theologian John Codd led the measures such as the genuine progress of the indicator to the assets economy, social, environmental progress. Governments began putting those principles into practice. Among the most famous cases was New York City's decision to invest $1.5 billion in its own watershed in upstate New York to protect its drinking water rather than build an 8 billion filtration plant beset by deteriorating water quality. The city government transferred the region land management practice. Farmers and landowners were paid to adopt the improved agricultural practices. Livestock was removed from the streams. Forests were protected. Since the 1990s, New York's natural capital investment has delivered huge dividends, $1.3 billion gallons of clean water per day. See, so we know what we're getting into. So Gretchen Daly, an ecologicalist, founder of the Natural Capital Project at Stanford University, says more than 500 active programs from Costa Rica to Pakistan are now based on the models worldwide with $40 billion in annual transactions. But the Natural Capital Project is attempting to turn into the national accounting standards. But the question is how they replicate success. She said it is putting natural capital on firm scientific footing by the first mapping how much natural capital, such as forests, rivers, wetlands, and other biomes, and exist in a national piggy bank, valuing their output of environmental goods and service and recommending ways to finance for their protection. But the vision is to work at every level in government to make natural capital as a fundamental to decision making a GDP is today. But China stands out for the sheer scale of what is possible. The country has poured $150 billion into the conversation of development incentives. Yeah, initiatives. Development initiatives since 2000. After the devastating floods and erosion from unchecked deforestation left millions of people homeless along the Yangtze River in 1998, China has since paid more than 200 million residents for restoration and conversation work. The conversations work, but the largest ecosystem service program in history. Worry of more natural disasters, the Chinese government is now zoning the entire country for ecosystem service, restricting certain development and investment in sustainable livelihoods across nearly half of the country. Recently, it began adopting the gross ecosystem product, the GEP. to rival the conventional economic metrics as part of its post to become an ecological civilization, while the GDP is simply formula a country's goods and service produced multiplied by price. GEP measures the flow of goods and service such as flood control and pollutionation, pollination, climate, climate change, and public health from its ecosystems. Unlike its conventional counterpart, GEP rarely has a market to price nature's benefits, but this January, research did so in China's Qinghai province in the headwaters for the Myeong, Yangtze, or something like that, and Yellow Rivers and Queen Hayes. Queen Highs. Queen Highs, or how you want to say that in their little lanes. I ain't gonna try to butcher it no more. But GEP, but they found the results of published proceedings of the National Academy of Science and exceeding its GDP. GPD. In the 2000s, most of which flowed downstream as clean water and wildlife. Recognizing this, the government investment heavily in watershed and restoration, more than doubling this ecosystem service value between 2000 and 2015. Plans are underway to scale this up nationwide. So we read this part. So this is the part when they talk about more sustainable capitalism, okay? And price of everything and value nothing. So, let's see how much time we got. That's good. What's going on, Psycho Candy? Yeah. Oh, you good, man? You good? It's like I got 46 minutes. Just reading this article. Just getting down to it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna just make sure. All right. Yeah. That's just the mic moving. Okay. Price of everything. Okay. The policymakers armed with single metric to measure this natural capital may make radically different decisions that the ones suggested by GDP alone. Number never intended to measure the welfare, justice, economic activity. Since an opportunity to private capital is beginning to flow into the arena. Okay. Okay. Sustainability funds now hold a record of 1 trillion in assets globally. Groups like HSBCs and Global Asset Management to division has positioned natural capital has its own asset class, valuing farmland forests for their carbon storage rather than just the real estate. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson touts a global economic case for protecting nature, as Europe has begun mandating financial disclosure around climate risk. Attention is turning to requirements similar discourse on the destruction of natural capital as well. But the task force on nature related disclosures is poised to set standards for governments and financial institutions to begin with documenting the impact of their businesses on the ecosystem service. But these topics have been discussed for a long time with the very little action, says Richard Madison, founder of the True Cost, part of the S&P Global, which helps companies assess their environment impact. But this transparency is leading to inaction. Still, early days of GDP took decades to win the acceptance as universal metric after rising to prominence in the 1940s. GEP is likely to take just as long as the new economic paradigms are just emerging to challenges. But the notion of GDP as a central measure of economic health, the donut economics model by the Oxford University's economist Kate Rayworth explicitly rejects the view and its purpose of measuring economy health as a balance between promoting the enough growth for a healthy society while preventing unsustainable withdrawals from the natural systems. But the city of Amsterdam recently adopted it, but time is short. Nature's bank accounts is running a deficit and bankruptcy is within sight. Humans are now consuming more resources than at any point in history, far beyond natural world's ability to regenerate itself. Since 2000, the goods service consumed by billions of people each year effectively demands more than 4.2 hectares in PDF and per person of biologically productive space, such as arable land, pasture, forests, ocean, most of its industrial nations, yet the amount of such productivity land available for each person on the planet in the end of the 20th century was just 2.3 hectares, and that is expected roughly half of by 2100 as the Earth's population continues to grow. That's the 22nd century they mean. That's futuristic shit. That's 2100. That's 22nd century. That's a long time. Most of us will be gone by then. Stanford's Daily argues capitalism needs to renegotiate its contract with the natural world as if we are going to survive. If we fall to do to this, there's not much future for humanity, she says. Our prosperity and health and every other dimension of what makes life meaningful is being liquidated with the approach we're taking today. It's hard to know if we're going to win this race. The odds are against us. So, everybody's got their little thing. This is Quartz. This is a little information on it. I'm gonna give you a copy. I'm gonna send the link in the chat. So we got this covered. So we basically have the thing in motion, and we're just gonna, I'm just gonna put this in the chat for y'all. So, I'm just gonna look over it. Yeah, this is basically it. We just like, put it out there. Is it sustainable? I asked it a question, and I ain't gonna play no things or music. I'll say 20. Let's see what I get. Oh, we have another article. This is like 2 months ago. Except, what is a regenerative capitalism? Why is it important? World Economic Forum .org. This is how much time we got to read. This is okay. There's a video y'all can watch. It's on YouTube, but I'm not gonna play the video because I ain't gonna get striked. Now that how these weirdos get. But what's going on, Jay Sean? Salute. We're going to talk about this right quick. I'll give y'all, I might not read as much. Yeah, it says it looks like reconsider of our current capitalist ideologies by looking beyond net zero emissions to net positive impact on the planet. It is vital the organization and governments alike are helping to address the climate crisis, agrees Sustainable advocates. Okay, and it says regenerative activities can include such urban development and agriculture planning. Okay, as we continue to live beyond our planet's limitations, we need to reconsider the capitalist system we live in. This entails looking beyond net zero emissions and setting eyes on leaving a set net positive impacts on the planet. It is called regenerative capitalism, and it holds a message of hope. In April of 2021, PepsiCo announced plans to practice regenerative farming on more than 7 million acres of land worldwide, the equivalent of its entire agricultural footprint. We know we have to do even more to create truly systematic change, says the company's chief sustainable officer, Jim Andrew. This is pretty major, says John Ellikington, author and authority on the corporate responsibility and sustainability. It is a bit when the Microsoft said it was going to offset the carbon emissions for its entire history as a business. Regenerative capitalism, a notion coined by John Fullerton in 2015, or in PepsiCo's case, regenerative farming refers to business practices to restore and build rather than to exploit and destroy. Regenerative is also about viewing the goal of net zero carbon emissions as the stop on the longer journey to create the conditions for life, flourish resiliently, and review indefinitely. Businesses, big and small, have ascribed to the principles of being participants in the sustainable response in economic for a decade now. To be more transparent, to report all of the sorts of stuff, to be more accountable and engage in the stakeholders in a range of ways. Of Ellington says, regenerative capitalism refers to business practices that restore and build rather than exploit and destroy, like he said in that sentence right there we just read. However, the mitigating harm and the band-aid for a broader issue with our planet, but the reality is way to do the business remains harmful for the harmful to the world's long-term future. We continue living beyond our planet's limitations, reckon, in the habitat in which we expect to live for our centuries to come. More radical change is needed. Regenerative capitalism could be more the answer we're looking for. That's what they say. Okay. The essential crisis of notion. The term regenerative capitalism is suited uneasily on the tongue, but there is a question around whether the regenerative capitalism is an oxymoron, says Luis Kellerup, Luis Roper. I mean, let's call him Luis. Yeah, Luis Roper, CEO of Volans, in London-based think agency and advisory firm to the mind of its oxymoron in the United States, the Anglo-centric world of capitalism. But I had the fortune of growing up in Denmark. He grew up in Denmark. Okay, which was very different from different form of capitalism. Okay, here we go. Regenerative capitalism is not net zero sum game between profits and the planet, but a model where both can sit it side by side. Roper believes it is possible to follow the principles of the regenerative capitalism, where big business and has a big role in withdrawal. Big role not winding down the planet, but getting it back on an even keel while also following the smart route to running a business. But it just requires a change in the mindset and relearning something. Principles of the smart business, regenerative anything requires moving away from the linear benchmark certainty KPIs is to an acknowledgement that the things aren't that simple, she says. Okay. Regenerative capitalism realized that business isn't an additional nature, but it's an intrinsically baked into it. Okay. In a regenerative capitalist world, there's a PowerPoint slide that can save the planet, but that requires a lot of deep thinking, and some of which unlikely is to be platable into the business focus and primarily on the bottom line. That is the biggest challenge to really move from that, says Roper. If responsible capitalism looks like through the lens of let's do it and let's harm. Regenerative capitalism realized that the business isn't an addition to nature, but is an intrinsically baked into it. Companies may lay claim to the mantle of regenerative capitalism while doing something that doesn't quite fit the bill, but there's always worry. when a new concept of gripes business that it becomes a little more than a buzzword. But the important is to understand that regenerative agenda needs the real teeth, says John Elkington, instead of claiming to be a green or claiming to be transparent or whatever, unless until you're properly regenerative across the place, you're not properly doing sustainability, the possibilities of the industries. But they talk about big polluters and things like that, but that's it's about it. So this is the World Economic Forum. I don't want to get into depth. Y'all can read the rest yourself. So yeah, it's basically, you hear what's going on, APT. Salute, man. Salute. So, since we're here now, we're gonna put the World Economic Forum so we, get y'all familiar with. So, as I stated, if anybody wants a discussion, that's fine. If not, that's cool. I wait. It's an hour, so this ain't gonna be a long one because I can cut it short anytime I want. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about the rest of it in about 20 minutes. So since I'm here and doing this, and I'm going to like, 10 likes. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all with the likes. Yeah, I pinned the link if y'all want to challenge something. And I got the links that I posted. So I talked about the World Economic Forum. They talk about how capitalism in the future is. We talked about that. And we also talked about courts, about sustainable capitalism. We talked about that in part 2. This is in part 2. And we also talked about what we read at the McKinsey's.com, The Future Insights, Long-Term Capitalism, Rethinking the Future of American Capitalism. So we talked about this first in the beginning of the stream. If you missed some of it, dial back a couple of minutes forward and then come back to the hour mark. And then we also talked about sustainable of capitalism. We talked about that as well, and we maintain what we have, right? And we also talked about, let's see, down here, we got to scroll down here. We talked about the regenerative capitalism industry and explained. So yeah, it's all based in the now, and then that's the links that we brought. So let me save this shit. Hold on, let me save this. Yeah, we got that. So what I'm saying, like, we're gonna get into it. So we here, I'm just gonna read, I'm just gonna talk about capitalism a little bit. And that's just basically it. So you just got what you pay for. And the things is you understand that most of the times you're dealing with that. So damn, Atlanta's whooping OKC's ass. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. This is what it is. But as it is what it is. So you do what you do. What's going on, Mike V? Salute. And that's the thing about capitalism, man. Like, we talk about these links all the time when I drop. This is part 2 of, explaining myself about capitalism long term. These are one of the discussions that you can have. And like I said, part 1 was talk about the introduction, the philosophy aspect of it, just get familiar with it, because I don't mention capitalism a lot. It deals with economics and things like that. Of course, it deals with the money aspect, but the philosophy aspect doesn't work in the future. So the other 2 links I had before explained what was 2 years ago and up to now. And like we just read, that link is very telling. The only reason I felt like it needed to be discussed is very valuable at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like you can have those discussions like that, and then that's the only one I can think of. But contractarianism, that will be one next week. I will break that down with the social contract, and it's a little different. See if it's relevant to today. Or contractualism, we'll talk about that. We'll get into it because I gotta look at that video again. and see what's what. I'll probably look it over in the weekend and see what's what. So yeah, this is very telling. Very very specific what I'm going to do. So capitalism is a must topic to talk about. So I'm going to drop the screen down. So we're gonna I always have it up, and then I'll bring some more links to it. So I'm gonna keep the tab up, see who's gonna come through or not. But I'll talk probably about at least about 30 to 40 minutes. Yeah, 30 to 40 minutes. If no one shows up, I'll do something. But yeah, this is a good discussion about it, and just talked about it and read some things in articles. So capitalism to me, yeah, it can be sustainable. Some people don't trust it. They think it's gonna go on because you are in the socialism aspect. A lot of people say we're not in it. Well, technically you are. I will do I might do a series of both. Socialism versus capitalism. I might do that. I might do that. I might do that. I might use a philosophy basics. Then I'll get a link, but it's gonna be capitalism versus. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about that not next week, but the next week of the Wednesday of next month. I'll schedule that. What's going on, May? Salute, salute. And it's just like you have what you need, but you understand what's going on. So that's just the one thing about me is like when you get to this certain level, you know that capitalism is a must need to talk about. So it's one of those subject matters that you get into. So a lot of people just gonna be like, nah, I'm fairly good. You know what I mean? Because when you look at things, you look at what you have, and that's the thing about capitalism. You don't really worry about a lot of things. And that's the thing about me talking about it long term. Okay. And people just be like, all right, what we're gonna do is sustain it. What about the jobs? And they was talking about the brush fires and the wildfires and things like that. I was talking like that on the job on breaks when I was a barista for 2 years. I've been talking about that prior to that. So I've been on the money what was going on. I've been talking about like this stuff for years and years and systems and things like that, and then socialism and all that. So when we get in discussions like these, and then 2 years ago, same thing. I talked it on the brain trust. Certain people was talking about it, brought it up. They had list of videos I done seen, and I've been on panels with them. They talked about it. I talked about it in passing. I talked about it in I was on, I believe on a lot of I think a lot of knowledge on DJ Kuda's third shifts when they got away from the game stuff. We talked about economic and politics. We did talk about it. I'm the only person on that panel talked about that way more. Last year, before I started this channel and started live streaming in April, I was talking about it the longest. So when I started doing this and get away from my dark history streams, I started breaking down shit that matters. I started breaking down shit that matters because this subject matter I don't talk as enough. That's the problem. I don't do enough of it because I felt like, at the time it could be wasted. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I could say is I understand that these subjects matter. These subjects matter because you can intentionalize what you're going to do with it. So yeah, we're going to talk about certain ones that are important. So we know what's what. So and that's just how you look at it in so many words. But yeah, because capitalism is one of them things that you be like, all right, we're gonna be here long term, and that's just what it is. But I'm not gonna hold everybody up. So a lot of people just don't want to discuss that all these integral levels, and then they look at it. Yeah, capitalism is one of them things you just got to get used to long term and its effects, and because Wednesday is kind of mild in a way. So you gotta, it's understandable. Most people just look at it with what it is. So yeah, let me see. Say later, I want him to talk about that. I've been looking at other shit, But you know what I'm saying? But that's what you get. And that's in a foreign language. Oh my god, they got all these in a fucking foreign language. Yeah. Let me look at the audience. Might to buckle down. Yeah, we're gonna let me look at this real quick. Let's see what's on the list. Get my boy up here. Yeah, that Julian Krause is something else, boy. Learn a lot about him. Yeah, I'm capitalizing my channel right now. I ain't, I won't get into it. Let's see. Let's see. Right here. We're gonna knock this down because this is too much right here. So, that's the thing about a lot of things. You hear the things that come through and you just like, you know, and I know people just not going to participate in capitalism, because this discussion it can go sliced in different ways. So since today's the 30th, I know tomorrow's my pops' birthday. He'll be 69. So happy birthday to him for tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big day. So yeah, DTN, we're gonna talk about the real shit. We're gonna talk about these niggas in these spaces and things like that. So we're not tripping. We're not over here bullshitting. It is what it is, and it is what it ain't. So, you know what I'm saying? But is it sustainable and all that? We got this up here. If y'all want to discuss, I mean the links in the pin. Y'all can come up, whatever. Or if not, because I can end it in 45 minutes to an hour, another hour. Because yeah, man, capitalism is what it is, man. It's one of those systems that is classic. You do what you do, and you just maintain that what you have, and you just got to look at it like that's the thing, right? So it's just like what you have here is people capitalize what they want, man. Like because America, most people believe America's still capitalist, but some people say it's socialism. I would love to have that little versus series that we could talk about it in its purest form. You know what I'm saying? We can have this thing. You know, that's the thing about me. So we're not really worried about what's going on long term. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people they get caught up in the silly shit and they just get caught up real bad. So it is what it is. And you just gotta look at it from that angle, you know. Yeah, I got a little janky setup, but that's okay. That's the whole purpose of me, coming to you guys day in and day out and just go forward. So, and that's the thing about me. You just keep it together, but the handling is okay. Yeah, I can hear the handling, but it's quiet. Testing, 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 testing. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. That's that extra clip. Yeah, I'm going crazy with it now. So yeah, let me turn it down a little bit. Oh, gotta get loud. Okay. Yeah, people capitalize and they capitalize it on not just the military industrial complex, but they also capitalize it on everything else. Even in sports, we see a lot of economic changes. If you look at the sports world, let's talk about this as capitalism's, of course. A lot of people getting bigger shoe contracts, endorsement deals. Even the movie stars, they're getting more money, try to be billionaires and stuff like that. This stuff is very valuable because when you talk about capitalism, yes, The corporations deals with capitalism, but they also deal with what? A little bit of what? Socialism. So China doesn't figure out a way to compete with them. We mentioned that in one of the articles, and like I said, man, I hear this a lot in dudes on panels and stuff. That's the stuff that you be saying, but a lot of people don't want to talk about economic stuff. They say you ain't making no money if you ain't talking about it. To me, it's kind of bullshit. It's not true. You don't have to make money talking about politics. You just got to know what you're talking about. Put the sources out there, put the links out there, and just do what I do, and then just move on. The engagement and replay value matters. People look at this and be like, all right, is he talking about capitalism again? Yeah, but nobody wants to hit and be interested in what I'm saying. So I'm saying, like, it's a platform. If you want that discussion, I'll give it to you. But that's the thing. But that's the difference when you're outside and they see you and things like that. So you get a different perspective of what's going on. So I get that a lot. And that's not one of the things that people would like to hear. You know what I'm saying? But I get the fact that people don't want to speak long term about it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, they just get emotional when we talk about real things. They just want to get upset about everything. But again, with the information that I have, we see this all the time, and we can't expound on anything. So a lot of people just want to stay in the dark with it. But that's it, because most people, they just gonna like look at it, right? All right, we got the links here and there. But yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm not really tripping at this point. So, shouts out to everybody that came through. So we get this on the wraps. So I'm not tripping off of anything. So we got to understand something real quick. When we talk about capitalism in its old form, and they mentioned, and the philosophy mentioned 16th century, that would be like the 1500s. That's during the tail end of the Renaissance period. Then when you get into the 17th century, that's 1600s. See, the 17th century, this is where a lot of buccaneers came. It all started in the 17th century. 17th century was very vital. This is the tail end of the Renaissance period. This is where people was going across the world to the Americas and things like that, and the islands and things like that. This is where the buccaneers shine. They shine with the naval seas and all that, and the traveling. It all started in the Renaissance period with those boats they have in Italy. And then that stuff started. You always had naval stuff years ago in Egypt and things like that, Greece and Rome. And then later, you'll say Italy in this country, in this state, started the naval stuff, and the Turkish people, of course. And then later, other countries adopted that. So eventually, over time, the French have it, the British had it, and the Spanish had it. Well, it was the Spanish first, from the tail end of the Italians having the water seas and the water in the Gibraltar. And they also had France and England. That was it. It all started way back then. They had ships back then. So it goes further back. And then the 17th century, you fast forward, you have guys that were privateers end up being buccaneers for trade and the money. That's when piracy became big in the 17th century. This is where capitalism thrived at. This is where you see conquest and bloodshed on islands come at, right? That's the whole purpose of that era. And they actually got a video game called Assassin's Creed's Black Flag based off that. It's a lot of movies and things like that, but it told the truth. But they did get lynched. They did get hung in the next century because it was trying to downsize whatever happened in France and things like that. And in Haiti, all the buccaneers were alive in the early 1700s. That's 18th century. That's like 3 centuries ago. And then when you talk about 17th century, that's 1600s. That's 4 centuries ago. Okay, that is 4 centuries ago. Now, if you want to talk about 16th century with the 1500s at the tail end of the Renaissance period, that's 5 centuries ago. 5 centuries ago, that's when capitalism was at its heat. ideology they're saying is 5 centuries years old, but the concept is not new. It's been around since the days of the ancient world. So it's been around. It's just this style of capitalism has been around. What they're saying in the Renaissance period, in the philosophy basics, is 5 centuries old. So what is these dudes talking about? It's been around forever. It just have a different perspective of how you look at things. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you look at things in a long-term form. You know what I'm saying? Catch my drift, because a lot of people they just look at it from not an integral perspective like I do, because I actually do the research, unlike most people in certain groups and spaces that they're in. I be observing what people are saying. I go by the competition, what people are saying. So some people are going to look at it differently. They're not going to look at it from my angle, your angle, and this like that. So we got to look at it from that angle, right? So basically, you just can't get mad at what's going on. That people talk about capitalism all day. That's in its finer moments. So we understand. We understand what's going on. Like we understand the difference between different forms of capitalism, and then you got all types, and then you got your what you call the corrupt capitalism we see today. And some people say that's not true capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Some people talk about capitalism a lot, but it's in its purest form. Like it's always been about exploiting others and everything like that. A lot of people say it's not, but Karl Marx did his research back in centuries ago. He did his research. It's always been very exploitative. Yeah, they use slavery. And I'm going to go back to dude's comment. I think this is very telling. Yes, it's true. You got to your comment, sir. I'm going to go back to this comment. Dude came earlier right here. I'm going to highlight this. Fortune 500 slave masters, the real government. See, that shit would have been said since 2 centuries ago. Well, actually, not a century ago. My fault. This comment would have been popular said a century ago, right? Or I should say like 2012 and 2015. I'll be fair. This comment would have been popular 2015 and prior. But saying it in 2022, we already know it's 500 fortune. But if he wanted to say that, it don't really matter. Like if he want to go by the history, if he wants to get technical, he should study the 16th century. This is nothing new. A lot of people say capitalism creates slaves. That's not true. It's just exploit people. Did it create slavery? Absolutely, in all aspects. But it doesn't create slaves. Trust me, that's not slavery. Capitalism will never be slavery. It's just exploited. You die amongst capitalism. Now, slavery is totalitarianism. That's slavery. They take your rights away. That's slavery. Capitalism is far from that, because there'll never be slavery. You can use it as a slave tag, but it don't work. And then you're begging for fucking reparations, which you niggas failed to get. But I digress. But yeah, that's a weak comment. But I understand that ain't the real government. The real government is people understanding that, yeah, it's a visible hand and things like that in place, but it's our fault. Like we always want to bitch and complain about reparations, but you niggas are very inconsistent. They talk about that shit. I've been saying that shit for 10 years and 15 years, you ain't did shit. I don't want to hear it. You fucked up. That's basically what it is. I'm not mad at the fact that everybody's inconsistent. You cannot get mad when other groups took a challenge. I just watched Information Man talked about other groups getting ahead of us. And y'all failed to do shit long term. So what the hell y'all talking about? There's plenty of opportunity in certain areas. If you're good in a certain skill, you can capitalize like that. That's a form of capitalism. You can capitalize on anything in business. But they do practice socialism on the low. They try to equal it out and be better and things like that. But capitalism, it's a mixed economy of two ideology systems. That's what America's has been about, and they show their hand many times and many before. The military, on the other hand, is what you will say like a utilitarian society, like Sarun was saying, and it's true. But the military should be conservative, right? But 9 out of 10, they want to bring this utilitarian side of the military That's when things get rough. People ain't ready for that. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. That's a whole nother. So I got subjects on that. Against what? It really matters. It really matters. So you deal with that. You stay on that topic, and then you just keep on going. So yeah, people always want to talk about capitalism and things like that. But but if I talked about feminism, you niggas would go crazy with the gynocracy. You know what I'm saying? But that's what y'all love to hear. It's like a religion. But it's a whole nother thing. What's going on, Bruce? Peace, peace, peace. But yeah, capitalism is an old system. It's been around forever. It's been around since the ancient times. The modern style was created in the 16th century after the Renaissance period. That form of capitalism has always been popular in the days in Italy and Spain. And also you see it in France and England, what you see today with the Anglo-Saxons and all that. And then you see it in the piracy. That will be the 17th century, the mid 17th centuries. That's when it became a relic of the past. So that will be, if it's 17th century, 1600s, that is also 4 centuries old. That is 4 century old history. 4 centuries ago, that style of plundering and naval attacks, that started 4 centuries ago, before this country was founded. That right there lets you know about real proper history. A lot of dudes don't even know that. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know the factors that go in the political realm of what these things were. See, politics was based off the resources and goods that you have on the battleship, especially with a buccaneer, because when they plundered stuff and they killed all the Spanish off in the Navy, and the Spanish Navy kind of died after that. That's why Britain was so huge the next century to stop this shit from flowing. That's the type of capitalism, because they was getting all the money until the next century they was getting hung on the square. So that means the Buccaneers had to die. So the British said, fuck it. We got to go to war with the Spanish, crippled them a little bit, and Spain just went down after that, the next century later, by the hands of the Buccaneers' help and the British help, and ruined their morale. That's when France got involved, because they know they was going to lose Haiti in that revolution. The capitalization of the Haitians, they had a lot of money, and that money is still, that they stole from the Haitians, ain't been given to them back, because they had so full power then. This is what capitalism is, y'all, in its purest form, the old fashioned way. But now they done doctored it up over the years. We forget about that. That's the stuff that people don't talk about. So capitalism in its purest form is what we see right now. You know what I'm saying? That's just basically 101. You know what I mean? Because I'm not worried about how the system's going to change and things like that. You just got to learn to adapt to certain things. And then, yes, technology done took over societies. But most people practice socialism and things like that in other areas in their governments in the US. And yes, capitalism is a buffer. It's like a religion, and people get into it. There you are. Some people don't like that long term. Then they get upset when you mention it. It gets really stale after that. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, because basically you just go in there and just do it. So that's the whole purpose of having it. And you can have it long termly, you know? But that's just me speaking on it from that perspective of it. So yeah, capitalism is one of them things you'd be like, yeah, you're there, and then you just be like, all right, this is one of those things you can just deal with. So I understand that people don't like it long term, and they just look at it and be like, all right, this is going to be one of those situations and like things like that nature. So, and you know, and I'm just like looking at it like, okay, we here now and things like this, and and capitalism in its highest form. So you know what time it is. Yeah, yeah, I'm live right now, so let's see what's going on in here in the chat room. How much time I got? Yeah, because if people ain't gonna come up, and that's cool. We got time. But capitalism in its highest form. But one thing I can say about it, you can have its reasons, and then you have what you have here. So everybody has their own moments. Everybody has their own like interests and things like that. So you look at things from how you capitalize the situation, like like people capitalize the Will Smith situation with the slap, they call it, right? With Chris Rock. Chris Rock got some money. They both apologized, but Chris shouldn't apologize technically. Technically, he did the right thing all the way through and through. But I've said that didn't hurt Will. Yes, it did. Will was about to be thrown out of the academy. So what he realized, since he's controlled, he had to shut the fuck up and he'll get more rewards. Now we're gonna see they gonna punish him even more if he ain't gonna win. That's how they gonna ostracize him. They tried to, but he learned to maintain his shit. So he had to shut the fuck up, and they don't care about his wife and everything. They care about you, man. You are the prize, not them. She's irrelevant. That's why that family's been tainted. So Will's got to clean up his image for the next couple of months, and he'll be all right. So looking at that award show, ain't nobody watching that bullshit. It's just what it is. Comedians don't have no right to say anything no more because it's a lot of bullshit going on in the world. But shouts out to Alvin Priester, right? People capitalize on not letting you have free speech. That's big business. Corporations do what they want. Privately owned, they say, hey, we here, we participate, and we exploit. We get the fuck up out of here. That's how those Buccaneers were back in the day, in those centuries. That's how it is. America has that capitalism, old style system mixed with socialism a little bit. It is a mixed economy. It's fucked up and it's very exploited. And it's still been practiced every day. Most people love capitalism, man. But America's not a pure capitalist society. No. We tried that shit back in the 50s and that shit didn't even work. That's when black folks wanted rights and wanted everything and civil rights and all this other shit. So that's why I don't go in depth on the feminism topic because people derive it something else and call it this the gynocracy. I don't want to hear all that bullshit. That's bad. That's bad, feel with it. So the whole point of that, the slap, is a continuation of capitalizing on who gets the most money and things like that. So Chris, he actually won that. A lot of people say he took a L. Bullshit. That nigga won that. Will looks stupid at the end because now he has to watch how he acts now. Instead of getting drunk and high, he want to act like a bitch and defend somebody that ruined your shit. And y'all both ruined. I'll say it like this: both of them ruined their marriages. That's why both of them are fucking trash, and the kids are fucked up because of the blame of them. And he wanted a certain way of doing things. So I'm tired when niggas defend bullshit like that. Just be fucking honest. His career is trash. He's a C-list fucking actor. Fuck that motherfucker. I ain't gonna defend. They say, is that defending a woman? I don't want to hear that bullshit. No, you just a bitch ass motherfucker that sold out a long time ago, and don't get me started with him and Quincy Jones because that's how he got it. Nobody give a fuck about Will Smith like that. No hate to my Philly people. No hate to y'all. Shouts out to y'all. Shouts out to these because y'all good peoples. It's just y'all better get your boy, man. Your boy is a clown, bro. He's making y'all look bad. Y'all been taking L's with him, because I question Will Smith every day. I mean, and let me tell you this to be fair, I'm not gonna be biased. To be honest with you, Will Smith and like these other big time celebrities that come from these cities and they act like they have the truth. These niggas ain't really about shit. When capitalism comes in, they just look for their money, but that's a whole nother story. What's going on?
What's good, sir? Everything going good, man?
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I got a quick question. Like, how bad you think censorship is going to be, especially on YouTube, man? Because it seems like you can't say shit without you getting flagged, or what I mean, this political correctness is getting out of control now, man. Like, you can't. I think freedom of speech is completely dead. So, how bad you think the censorship is going to get?
Oh, it's gonna be. It's been like this like 10 years ago. Prior to that, it was
Oh, damn.
good. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been like that for a long time. But what you're saying is, it's been like that for years and years. They just now with the new terms of service on any platform that you're on, I've noticed any apps, they're watching the shit that's going on. But see, everybody's on live streams on YouTube, and that have got the attention of other countries on these networks and these apps, and they're watching who be on panels and stuff. So they're studying the whole thing. So yeah, the government's always been involved. They're not going to arrest nobody, as long as you ain't no terrorist. The key word is a terrorist or eco terrorist. You're good. As long as you ain't got no secrets and shit like that working with certain people and organizations, you're good. Because as long as you're in a threat, that's what they look at. And then the freedom of speech thing, that's going to continue. It is political stuff. It is what you would say, like laws and stuff like that. Some people are fighting it. They're fighting the right to say things and like that. And yeah, you just got to be careful with certain trigger words in the algorithm. You can use different titles, like I've always done. I stay away from certain people that have that notoriety, because that's the
yeah,
trick with this. You could talk about it, but you can't. You gotta be fair with it too. You can criticize them all you want. They don't really give a shit. All they care about is, as long as you're not attacking like a video, and just see like the reaction videos were great back in 2015. They stopped that shit somewhere around 2018. I'll never forget it when I came back to these certain spaces, and I was like, this is where it got worse. Yeah, it's already getting worse, and it shows you about the new terms of service. So now that's why everybody's careful doing the content. So they're being very careful. That's
yeah,
all it is. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's getting worse, and it's not going to get better, because what's going to happen? This site will die off in the next 3 to 5 years, because they'll go somewhere else that's better. And what's hurting it, when you keep censoring people, and it's all political. Most of it's political.
yeah.
And I was watching Duke the Don. He was saying that yeah, it's a lot of money behind it. They capitalizing of anybody's free speech. It ain't just the men. It's actually certain women that getting canceled if you're defending certain groups of people, and there's no balance. That's
Nah,
that's why it's that's why it's unbalanced. So there you have it.
yeah, man. I agree with that breakdown. Like, I know some content creators that took their content to Patreon, the controversial content, and that got even took down. So, like you said, they crack it down on all these sites, man. It's crazy out here. Not a good thing. So,
Yeah, Patreon is good. The only issue I had with it years ago, you're not really safe on there anyway. So you got, like I said, it's the same concept. All of them have terms of service. They allow you to get away with certain things for long, then they'll get rid of you. See, that's why I don't really invest in these platforms like that. Now, if everybody had their own platform, their own media service and things like that, you wouldn't have no issue. This is why I agree to having two internets. A lot of people don't believe that. That's your new industrial revolution right there. See, Black Brain Trust don't talk about that because people don't want to be censored a lot. So what's happening with the I think when people's phones get slowed down and all of a sudden they get a new one. I saw this ad by this woman. She's an Asian, but she was challenging these tech companies. They have a charger, right?
yeah,
Speeds up your phone and everything. I forget what that ad is when I see it on YouTube. And when she said it, I said, damn, that shit's fast. But then they trying to go against her, and the lawmakers trying to take it off, out of circulation and purchase. I said, damn. But that right there, it's just that's just they trying to capitalize on certain shit. Censorship is a form of the new capitalism nowadays, because you can cancel their cancel culture ain't no joke, but you cancel out people what they say now. But that's
yeah,
gonna continue long term. So yeah, I've been saying that like last year, but I'm glad I touched on capitalism, because capitalism actually feeds off that. So you have what you have with the capitalist society, things like that. So yeah, but go ahead, my fault.
nah, man. I agree completely, man. It's getting out of control, but no need to complain about it because they ain't gonna do no good. bitch and complain about it. It is what it is, man. But you just got to be careful with your word. Cause I made a video about that trans swimmer. Well, I don't want to say that the T word, but that swimmer, and they will talk about some. I was spewing hate speech, so I got a strike on my channel because of that. I'm like, damn. So like certain topics, I'm not even gonna talk about anymore, man, just because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those topics is very, very sensitive, and I don't even cover it. I just don't put it in the title. That's how they got you. And the only way you got that strike is what's in the title or the
Yeah.
picture or the thumbnail. See, the trick is it's the thumbnail and the title. That's how they get you. See, they don't get you what you're saying. It's just that thumbnail and that title. And this is why Google and YouTube won't last long term. If they keep this up, and this is all political, because whoever's working amongst them, that's where the division is gonna lie. And I understand because they're trying to protect certain people, but they're not really protecting much, and they fight each other all too. And they're getting flagged. The people in that community, like I said, in GA, if you notice, they don't tell you about Midtown. They do kill each other. I'm the only person talked about that on the channel, and they do. It's like that. If you really notice, you got to go back 2010. It's not what you think it is. Yeah, they practice the lifestyle. The problem is they do kill each other though, because it's all about money and resources and how they control those areas to stay afloat, especially in Buckhead, because it's not what it's going to be. Yeah, GA is a lot of money. You can make money down here and expand. You know what Ramil said, but what Ramil and them other guys won't tell you, you can get away with a lot of shit here. But the trick is you got to know certain people. So GA is kind of like everybody else. They just have certain areas you're going to be in and neighborhoods to be in. So, yeah, when you talk about topics like these, yeah, they got lawyers that come after you realistically here faster than where y'all from, whatever. So I do know that because I used to work at a corporation, an organization as a barista, and I saw that a lot up close. I saw a lot of shit went down. So that shit's nothing new. This is like, see, if you add trending controversial political topics, that's when you got to be careful. You got to do the research and then move on, and then the thumbnails is what get them. That's how people get a strike. So I've seen people get their channels taken like that. See, this is the month of takedown season. See,
Yeah.
March is the new beginning. See, the March is really the new year, because if you study the zodiac, it's really the new year. Because January is not. It's actually the same year last year. It's even though they're claiming it's New Year's, but New Year's is really the spring, because the spring is, this is why they call it spring cleaning. They're gonna get rid of your shit. So I ain't worried about April and May, because that's a whole nother story, because they pick and choose who they want to delete off here. And I've noticed that since the last 3 to 4 years. And
That
that's
makes
not good.
sense.
So yeah, I know it don't make sense, but
No,
people was on here the longest.
yeah.
But that new terms of service done divided a lot of people. So I've noticed some changes in people's content. So yeah, they always want to say content strategy. No, you always have to have content strategy. I've been doing that for years. That ain't nothing new. I just learned not to put the thumbnails. I'll talk about the subject, then talk about something else. But even though I have to have a fair assessment, because yeah, those people do watch. Google and YouTube watch. I mean, you just got a strike. That's cool. But, if you beat that, that's good. Because some people beat those strikes all the time. But you just got to be careful with those topics, because everybody's a little biased on here. And I've noticed that on YouTube. And I stay away from shit like that. I just keep it simple and just keep it pushing, you
Yeah,
know?
man. Yeah, I agree, bro. I agree. Yeah, well, keep up the good work, man. I've been enjoying your history topics, man. Like, hopefully you get a touch on Aboriginal American history. You know what I mean? So that's real intriguing to me. I just been getting to that just recently. So hopefully you touch that topic soon. Excuse me, damn, choking. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I've touched on it before. I'll probably delve in it again. I'll probably do it in a special stream on that on a Wednesday. I'll probably do it in the morning or something like that. I may come up with something and go back to that and go look in the playlist, and I'll bring some of the pictures up, and then there's this guy talking about the Aboriginal Americans. I think Power. I've been watching this channel. They've been talking
Yeah,
about that
man.
too.
Yeah,
I'll touch. Yeah, I'll be touching on that too.
it's
So
sounding great,
I'll
man.
get it. Yeah,
Yeah, man. All right, I appreciate it, bro.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks. Yeah, that was Tampa. Appreciate him for coming up. But yeah, man. Just like I said, yeah, censorship is a big deal, and it's a capitalization of capitalism. That's how they make their money, man. Like, especially on these sites, you got to be careful. I don't care if it's from, I mean, they got apps like what, Discord, they got Twitter, Instagram. They are, everybody updates their terms of service. And you got to be careful. They're not playing with you, especially Google and YouTube, because they're the biggest. Let's talk about Google and YouTube for a minute. Google and YouTube does not want you to be wild like that. You know why? They don't want you to be extreme. If you become extreme on here, what else they gonna do? You got to be careful what you say on here long term, because they're gonna come after you. See, my stuff is good. I mean, my stuff is old. They don't really care, and they know I ain't a real threat like that. That's good. But I don't say much anymore. I just keep it current events, yes, politics, and be fair, but I'm not going to go in on certain groups of people. I'll skip over it and read. Like, if you notice, I don't really care about that, because basically what I'm saying is you just keep it factual and keep it pushing. So, it's an hour in. So, I have one person up here. So, I know no one else ain't going to come up, because, I'm just talking about capitalism. I brought the links up here, and y'all can see, the sources I brought out in the chat room. Y'all can make sure y'all save that, put it in as your bookmarks, and keep it. And you got to have it, man, because it's one of those things, man. You got to make sure you have this stuff. So, and I forgot another one. TikTok. If you say some shit in TikTok, that's political, they can cancel you too. You just got to be careful what you say on here, man, because this stuff, I did this, I will say probably 2 years ago, and then I did it last year on certain channels. You got to be careful who you talk to, because when you talk to certain people, it gets crazy like that, because most people, they just want to talk about reckless stuff and relationships as an easy topic, but technically that's even dead. And let me tell you a secret: you cannot talk bad about women. You got to have them on your shit, and especially you got to have conversations. This is why I break down the Lapeef network a lot with the DTNs, and I say it all the time. Is this going to be standard? Yes, because certain topics that you talk about, you got to have a woman in it. If she's in that relationship topics, she has to be on your panel. If you have women subscribers and things like that, you got to let them on. You got to be fair. I'm not an echo chamber. If they want to talk, I'll drop it. That's just what it is, man. You just got to make sure you get to know what's the factor of it. You know what I'm saying? That's how people get. Some people just don't want to deal with that. And you got people like that all the time, man. And that's just how people don't understand. So, I'm not really upset. But I understand that people have other things going for them. So yeah. Oh, he lost his channel again. Yeah, I'm not surprised, man. Not surprised, man. Yeah, they're not playing. They're not playing with these fools, man. When you talk about women all day, that's a liability. That's why I don't make it as my content. So I ain't gonna lose this channel because I can't afford that. I can't afford that shit. So you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's not on the same page. But I talked about that will shit. That's cool. But people can take you out. Uh you can't say nothing on YouTube really, because basically I stay on the same topics. I don't play no videos because this site's been gone. YouTube's been gone since years ago. It all started in '08. This goes back to the days and decades ago. YouTube's been finished. I've been saying this the longest. That's why people need to invest in other platforms. It's better, and you can say what you want. It's mostly I'm gonna try investing in the Rumble. I want to see what Rumble's about. See if I can get an account because I might start. I might start that Friday. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna get on there because that way I want to see if you can live stream and shit. I'm gonna upload. I'm gonna create a channel and I'll see what I can do because that way I can, could see what's what. I'll keep this channel long term because I'm not gonna do much content. I'll do it every Sunday, but I'll touch on things on the Wednesday streams. I'll keep that as my content. I'll stream twice, and then Friday or Thursday it's random. It's every other. I won't do that with Thursday thrills because if I bring Thursday thrills back, it's not gonna be every Thursday. It's gonna be every other Thursday because I'm gonna put it on the times with Tuesday. I don't treat it like independent thinker series. Now, independent thinker series is every other Tuesday. It starts at the spring. No, it ends in the spring, but it starts in the fall, winter, and spring. And the reason I'm stopped doing it now, in the summer, I'm still doing it in the spring. But once the spring ends up and it gets to the summer, I'm gonna stop doing it, and then I'm gonna do just and Thursday thrills will be back. It'll be full in effect in the summer. DTNs is just a spring edition of the news, but we will talk about screenshots if I have something juicy for Thursday thrills. If I don't, people talk to it's gonna be a couple of screenshots, but not a lot. I'm not gonna take a whole lot because what I'm gonna do with this one, DTN is strictly screenshots, but Thursday thrills, I'm gonna keep it at that. But DTN is important. That's the whole topic. I'll open up 30 minutes because the first one was 40 minutes. I changed it to 30 minutes. When it gets to the 30-minute mark, we'll show you the screenshots and we'll talk about the issues and things like that. And then the hour goes in, and you know, Thursday, I will not. It's not an open panel. This news segment is not an open panel. I'll tell you that right now. It's not open. Only time I do that is for Sundays only. But Wednesdays, I drop the link every now and then. If it's a good subject, if y'all want the conversation, that's fine. I'll do that. But every Thursday is not an open what you call it, open link. I'm gonna tell you that right now because I always do study people what they be saying in conversation. We got the screenshots and that's it. That's what we do over here. So don't y'all worry. Don't y'all worry. So it's been an hour, and it's not much. Appreciate Tampa coming up. Yeah, I may shut this down because shouts out to everybody. Tampa, Bruce, who else came through? Mike V, Epsilon Pianki TV. Y'all check him out. Jay Shine, salute, man. Salute, salute. As always. As always. And who else? Mike, appreciate you. Shar, appreciate you sincerely. Appreciate you. D Scott, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate that everybody came through. So with that, I want to say peace and shalom. And I'm out.